At the far edges of basketball's height spectrum stands Tacko Fall, a towering player who turns heads by simply stepping onto the floor. He's even taller than many of the biggest names in recent memory, and his journey has featured viral clips, roadblocks, and fresh hopes of a comeback. Despite having physical gifts others dream of, he struggled with a league that now demands more speed and agility. Let's examine his story, the hurdles he's faced, and why he's aiming for a return that many consider impossible. In modern basketball, players around 7 feet tall are not a rarity, but someone approaching 7 feet 6 inches or beyond always stands out. Spectators stare, cameras click, and the internet explodes with highlights whenever Tacko Fall appears on the court. Coaches dream of easy baskets and shot blocking records, while opponents wonder how to attack someone who can drop the ball into the rim without jumping. Yet extreme height brings extreme challenges, and these massive centers often have a short NBA shelf life. To appreciate the uniqueness of a near 7'7" athlete, consider the average NBA player who stands around 6'7". That extra foot is not just a curiosity, it changes how the entire game is played. Some towering players in history, like Untapped and Georgia Murashyan, became legends for their comedic but effective presence. Their arms stretched forever, and shooters had to loft the ball unusually high to avoid blocks. At the same time, these giants endured foot and knee issues, struggled with speed, and occasionally looked out of place in a league that values fluid movement. Over time, the NBA has changed dramatically. While the league once embraced the half-court offense and relied on interior dominance, the current trend favors smaller lineups, quick guards, and three-point shooting. Traditional big men adapt or risk irrelevance. The Giants now need more than shot blocking. They must run the floor, switch on defense, and at least attempt mid-range shots. The formula for success has shifted, making it tough for a towering center to hold a roster spot if they cannot guard in space. Still, fans cling to the idea of unstoppable tall centers. They recall spotlight clips of a 7-foot-something juggernaut piling up rebounds and swatting shots into the stands. A novelty factor also plays a role. These giants become viral sensations, with every block or dunk feeding the hype machine. Yet the line between fascinating attraction and viable rotation player can be thin. Once you strip away the spectacle of being unbelievably tall, the question becomes, can he effectively guard the pick and roll? Can he endure an 82-game season? Can he shoot free throws above 50%? His background sets him apart, not just in height, but also in how he found basketball. Tacko Fall grew up in a different part of the world, far from America's polished AAU circuits. Local coaches spotted his extraordinary height when he was just a teenager. At first, he had almost no basketball knowledge. Even everyday tasks like running up and down the court without losing balance were challenging. Yet local organizers saw potential in his frame. They believed that within his massive body, a hidden star might be waiting to emerge. His decision to move abroad for high school basketball changed his life forever. Surrounded by new languages, new rules, and top-tier competition, the young giant faced a steep learning curve. While he towered over peers, his footwork lagged.
First game I half play here, I couldn't play. It was way fast.
Coaches drilled him on simple movements like pivoting, sealing in the post, and using leverage, hoping to mold raw clay into an unstoppable force. For a while, progress was slow. He'd score easy points around the rim, but show little beyond that. Still, scouts salivated over his reach and shot blocking potential, especially since he hadn't even come close to tapping his ceiling. In high school highlight reels, Tacko Fall seemed like a cheat code. Opponents who tried driving for a layup often found their shots spiked back to half court. He rarely jumped for rebounds because outstretched arms handled everything. On offense, the simplest lob pass led to thunderous dunks. Spectators roared in amazement, and the videos racked up millions of views online. His size made him an instant celebrity. Behind all the viral moments, the teen faced real challenges. Shoes in his size were hard to find. Traveling in cramped buses or planes felt uncomfortable. He also struggled with conditioning because carrying so much weight can be exhausting. Some nights his legs cramped or his feet throbbed with pain. Critics doubted whether he could handle the pace of higher level basketball or whether repeated stress on his legs would wear him down. Stepping onto a college campus, Tacko Fall immediately became the focus of every conversation. Fans lined up to see him in person, marveling at his sheer size. Opponents tried to develop plans on how to neutralize him, yet most found that easy answers didn't exist. When you stand head and shoulders above the rest, even the simplest basketball action like holding the ball above your head can keep it forever out of defenders' reach. During his freshman year, coaches used him sparingly, preferring to ease him in. Quick foul trouble, some stamina issues, and offensive rawness limited his minutes. Still, each shift on the floor was memorable. He'd reject shots around the basket or record putback slams that thrilled crowds and made highlight reels. Meanwhile, sports media outlets buzzed with updates, labeling him a potential star or a gimmick, depending on who was talking.
I saw him a couple of times, and I actually got to see some of the highlights in his debut at LSU, and I think most people believe that he's going to be the #1 draft pick in the NBA this year.
Over the next few seasons, Tacko Fall showed glimpses of real improvement. His rebounding technique sharpened, and he developed a talent for reading the game better. Instead of just standing in the paint, he learned how to set effective screens, pass out of double teams, and cover ground faster on defense. While free throw shooting remained a glaring weakness, fans hoped a soft mid-range jumper might appear in his arsenal one day. The pinnacle came in a memorable NCAA tournament matchup. A top-ranked seed faced his underdog team, leading to a star-studded showdown. For one shining moment, Tacko Fall outplayed the much-hyped top recruit, scoring easy baskets and altering shots left and right. Though his team ultimately lost, that game showed everyone that his size wasn't a joke. He was a real problem if used correctly. Still, deeper flaws lurked. College strategists recognized how to exploit him with pick-and-roll sets, pulling him away from the rim or forcing him to guard smaller, quicker players.
Even though he's 7'6", if he jumps, he's even taller, obviously. So my #1 thing is to take his legs from him just to give myself a little space. I know that I got to shoot the ball quick. That's the #1 thing.
Conditioned athletes discovered that by keeping the tempo high, they could tire them out. Observers saw that while he was valuable in short bursts, he wasn't always built for extended minutes. Over 4 years, Tacko Fall set records for field goal percentage and blocks. But the question remained, could this approach succeed in the NBA, where the pace is even faster and shooting range extends far beyond the arc? The night of the NBA draft brought mixed emotions. Tacko Fall went unselected. It stung. He had shown flashes of brilliance in college, and a wave of social media supporters believed he deserved a chance. However, an undrafted path wasn't the end. Almost immediately, phone calls from several teams arrived. They invited him to showcase his talent in the Summer League, a short but crucial window for overlooked players to prove themselves. In the Summer League, he wasted no time making an impression. Fans roared whenever he checked in. A simple lob turned into an instant highlight. Even a rebound looked extraordinary when he barely needed to jump. His shot blocking soared, leading to quick, fast breaks. Within days, the internet circulated a compilation of all his best plays, capturing the attention of every major sports outlet. A sense of hope spread. Maybe, just maybe, he could lock down a regular season roster spot.
Tacko Fall continues to dominate Summer League, giving the Boston Celtics something to think about.
Soon after, an NBA team offered him an Exhibit 10 contract, granting him a partial guarantee and a chance to earn a full roster spot if he performed well in training camp. In preseason games, he caused crowds to erupt with each block or dunk. The team eventually converted him to a two-way contract, letting him float between the NBA and the G League. But while Tacko Fall shone in cameo appearances at the NBA level, reality struck. Coaches rarely let him play extended minutes. Opponents singled him out in pick and rolls, targeting his slow lateral movement. More advanced offenses loaded up on shooters, punishing him if he tried to protect the paint. Even so, his synergy with certain teammates looked encouraging. A star guard found him for easy alley-oops, and his block numbers were high whenever the team ran zone defense. Away from the bright lights, he dominated the G League. Opposing bigs couldn't handle his length, leading to near triple-doubles in points, rebounds, and blocks. Yet, NBA coaches took note of how the G League's slower pace masked some of his weaknesses. They questioned if that production could translate. Some fans believed the right team with a specialized system could harness his skills. Others considered him a novelty act, a crowd-pleasing giant, but not a serious contender for meaningful NBA minutes. As the months went by, Tacko Fall became a permanent fixture in the G League, where his impact was undeniable. He posted jaw-dropping averages, double-digit rebounds, steady points around the rim, and multiple blocks each game. game. In many matchups, he appeared unstoppable, swatting shots back into the third row, towering over unsuspecting big men. Clip after clip circulated online, fueling arguments that an NBA team needed to call him up and give him 20 minutes per night. However, the NBA didn't fully agree. While some squads invited him to training camp or offered two-way deals, none provided a stable rotation spot. Analysts pointed to a larger trend: the evolution of the center position. The rise of spacing, quick screens, and perimeter attacks had rendered slow-footed, purely interior bigs less useful. Even if he could block shots at an elite rate, consistent pick-and-roll coverage demanded agility. In most rosters, coaches just didn't see him as a reliable option in high-stakes moments. Critics also mentioned free throw woes. Opponents would foul him rather than allow easy dunks, daring him to convert at the line. His percentages hovered below acceptable thresholds, giving them an easy defensive strategy. Meanwhile, advanced stats showed that while he dominated the paint, teams scored more from deep whenever he got pulled away from the basket. Coupled with stamina issues, it was clear that a specialized approach was needed to leverage his size while hiding his weaknesses. In interviews, Tacko Fall remained hopeful yet realistic. He acknowledged that the NBA was leaning into speed and skill from all 5 positions. Still, he was convinced that certain coaches could utilize him in short bursts to shift the momentum. Off the bench, perhaps he could enforce a different tempo, punish smaller lineups, and draw fans who love to see a big man towering over defenders. The roller coaster of call-ups and demotions tested his mental fortitude. Every time he checked into an NBA game, fans roared and social media lit up. Yet as soon as the final buzzer sounded, he'd often find himself driving 2 hours to a G League arena for the next day's practice. He thrived in that lesser league, but the big question remained: was a near 7'7" giant ready for everyday NBA basketball, or was the cost of adapting him too high for coaches fixated on modern style? Frustration grew as NBA squads showed hesitance. While he was seen as an entertaining figure, many front offices weren't convinced. Then came offers from abroad, lucrative deals in foreign leagues where the paint-oriented approach still had a place. Eager to find consistent minutes, he chose to sign overseas, where he could develop at his own pace and potentially showcase more advanced abilities. Tacko Fall's arrival in an overseas league sparked excitement among international fan bases. The shift from an American small ball approach to a more traditional style often gave towering centers room to dominate. In these leagues, the floor wasn't spaced as heavily with shooters, and the pace sometimes slowed. Suddenly, his job was simpler: protect the rim, go for easy putbacks, and force opponents to think twice before driving. The result was an uptick in his confidence and stat lines, reaffirming that there was still a place in professional basketball for a giant manning the paint. However, the transition posed its own set of challenges. Language barriers, cultural differences, and a brand new coaching philosophy took time to embrace. Training routines varied, and the daily schedule might not have matched the rigor of the G League.
China was different. I mean, obviously going to a different country and have to get used to a lot of stuff besides, basketball.
Yet he found a supportive environment that valued his strengths rather than merely pointing out weaknesses. Crowd attendance soared, with fans eager to see a real-life giant in action. On the flip side, some wondered if playing overseas risked him fading from the NBA's radar. Many talented players, once they leave for foreign leagues, struggled to get back into the spotlight. The traveling lifestyle also tested him mentally. Week after week spent in unfamiliar cities, far from family and friends. But the trade-off was clear: more playing time, better production, and a real chance to refine his craft. Tacko Fall used these seasons abroad to improve his conditioning and footwork. Working with specialized trainers who understood how to handle extra-tall athletes, he gained more trust in his legs. Free throw form received special attention, though progress there came slowly. He refined his short hooks, practiced reading double teams, and tried to develop a baseline jump shot. Despite not turning into a stretch 5, every tiny addition to his skill set moved him closer to a complete package. Years have passed, and Tacko Fall now approaches 30. Players in that age range typically fall into known categories: proven stars, reliable role players, or veterans nearing retirement. A physically unique athlete who still sees himself as an unfinished project is unusual. Nonetheless, he's voicing a strong desire to return to the NBA, hoping to show that with refined fundamentals, he can finally break the mold. Some NBA scouts remain cautious. They remember how multiple franchises gave him a look, only to later release him. They point to questionable lateral movement, suspect free throw shooting, and the burdens that come with such a towering figure. Can he handle pick and roll duties on an every night basis in the world's fastest league? Yet a handful of coaches hint that in a situational role, perhaps 10 to 12 minutes a night, he might shift momentum. His presence alone can alter how teams attempt to drive or rebound. In interviews, he's revealed new workout routines, including daily treadmill sessions for stamina and specialized posture exercises aimed at improving quickness.
Just keep improving my stamina. And obviously I've gotten a lot better running up and down the floor, moving laterally, but there's still the next step to take into that, especially, playing the NBA.
He also claims better footwork in the paint, especially when pivoting away from double teams. He even joked about wanting to develop a corner three, but no videos have surfaced proving that shot is consistent. Meanwhile, fans remain divided. One segment can't wait to see him in an NBA uniform again, cheering for more highlight blocks and standing dunks. Others believe the hype is overstated, calling him a novelty lacking real synergy with modern systems. If an NBA team does take a gamble, it will need to revolve around the idea that its pluses can outweigh the minuses. Short bursts off the bench, facing certain matchups, might be enough to give him relevance. Also, locker room presence counts. He's known to be a positive, friendly teammate who embraces coaching. In a league that values intangible factors and star storylines, a triumphant return for someone with such a huge fan following might be worth the risk. He admits the path is narrow, but Tacko Fall is not deterred. Some of the best stories in the NBA come from players who overcame adversity, forging careers after being labeled too tall or too slow. For him, the unthinkable is more than a dream. It's a plan to break the cycle of short stints and become a dependable asset. The next few months could determine whether his final push to re-enter the league finds a taker among front offices searching for a wildcard edge. Tacko Fall stands among basketball's giants, literally towering over opponents. Yet his journey reveals that raw height alone does not guarantee NBA success. Time overseas gave him new skills and confidence, and now he aims for a long-sought comeback in the fast-paced, perimeter-oriented league. Is there still a spot for an old-school big who can block shots and dunk without leaving the floor? Only the next chapter will answer that. Thanks for watching, and remember to support the channel by purchasing your favorite gear from our Hoop Hype store. And don't forget to check out our next video, shown on screen.